I think you're right, man. It does feel like a Wednesday.
Feels like a Wednesday, but it's not. Because you know what? It's a Tuesday. It is what? June 22nd, 2021. Welcome aboard. This is the Crushing Iron Podcast. We are episode 488.
Yeah, I feel like we're keeping them honest with our release dates.
We are.
Lately.
We are keeping it honest.
Usually Monday, Thursday.
I know we used to be like really stringent on the Monday, Thursday. We would bend over backwards to make sure we kept our Monday, Thursday streak alive. But then we thought, hey, the most important streak is the consistency, which is twice a week. And then we also figured, you know what? Practice what we preach, which is being flexible, being adaptable. There's no reason for us to record on every Monday and Thursday and holidays. It's, do your best when you can and leave the rest. And that's what we tried to do. And we have for, 487 past podcasts for the last 5 years. Hey, it's the first time tuning in. Welcome. We appreciate you tuning in and giving us your time. We know you have a lot of options in the triathlon podcast universe and just podcasts in general. So thank you for tuning in. You're going to hear it all today. You're going to hear swim, bike, run, detailed training stuff. You're going to hear questions for the main goal. We're doing a double. We're pulling a double cast today. We have our June camp this week, which is honestly one of my favorite weeks the entire year. We have 40-plus athletes coming in town to Nashville.
Wow.
To have an absolutely awesome weekend. We go Wednesday night dinner. We go through Sunday morning. We ride 3 times, we swim 3 times, we run 3 times. I mean, we have an absolute blast. It is seriously, it's my favorite. It's my favorite tri camp we do, or the run camp. I still think is my favorite because we just park and we're there for 3 or 4 days.
Oh, for sure.
And so I think they're kind of in different categories, but that's it. And before we go into more like details about the podcast and a little more of a welcome, I don't even know whose idea it was for us to start doing camps. It wasn't ours. I remember like way back in the day. We've been doing this for 5 years now. Someone, I think, posted in our closed group, which is basically going to dominate and lead the 2 podcasts because we're doing a Q&A in our closed group, which is, if you're not a part of that and you want to be a part, go to Facebook and search Crushing Iron Group, and we'll let you in. It's an awesome group, awesome people. And a lot of times, at least once every other month, sometimes once a month, we'll pop in there and let the community in there ask questions. We'll cover those topics on the podcast like we will today and for Thursday. But I think someone posted in there, hey, why don't you guys put together a camp? And this is back when you and I both lived in Nashville, and I thought, okay, sure. We don't even know what those look like or how to do them
Yes.
or what goes into it. But we thought, hey, we've got the Trace, we've got the Lab, we got Anderson Road Beach, we got Percy Warner. Why the hell not? And we had like 20 people come to one. We did 3 that year. And since then, it's been 5 years. Since then, we have had over 500 individual athletes register for some of our camps since then. So whoever's idea that was, we thank you. We love it. And if that's one thing that I feel like we absolutely knock out of the park is camps. So if you're thinking about joining in next year, we'll put this next June camp on registration go live here in the next week or 2. So be aware of that. It sells out incredibly fast. But this we got going on this week. We hope you have a lot of racing coming on this week. And again, if it's your first time tuning in, we usually cover it all. Race recaps, race previews. Mike and I are both coaches and athletes ourselves. We're best friends. He's been doing this for 23 years. I've been doing it for only like 6. He always gets me because I always undershoot. I'm trying to oversell him today.
I'm the elder statesman.
You are the elder statesman. That's it. We're not experts. We are not professionals. We've just been around the sport for a very, very long time. As I was like reminded of that last week when we had a couple athletes down in Hilton Head Island do the Beach Bum Triathlon, which was my second ever triathlon. I did that triathlon. You bike on the beach in Hilton Head because it's like packed hard sand. I did that back in 2004. Was my second one. So it's been a while. I've been doing this for a very long time and coaching for a long time. So today we'll hop into our closed group and rattle off those questions. But I'm excited. I'm just pumped for camp. I'm pumped to this podcast and, pumped to do this with you.
Hey, can we talk about that driving on the beach thing real quick?
Driving on the beach? We bike on the beach. We don't drive.
I know, but like when I used to go to Florida, Daytona and stuff, that was like, what? There's cars driving up and
do that shit in Daytona. They don't do that everywhere.
Oh, they don't?
Yeah,
okay.
Daytona's like a totally different planet.
I mean,
Hilton Head, you can. Like the beach, like the beach rescue vehicles we drive on the beach, but like the way that the beach is so wide, and it's actually perfectly from point to point. It's 13.1. It's actually like an open half marathon. It's like packed hard. You can ride your bike on it.
You should do that.
Which I remember was like the most gigantic mistake because I got it was I think the second time I'd ever ridden my tri bike. I had saved up for months, and I bought this felt S32. It was red from the local store there from Al. I think he's still selling bikes like on the East Coast. It was Go Try Sports was his, and I got it and rode it on sand for like the second in here. I think it took me like 5 hours to clip in on the sand because I wasn't like it. It was also Hilton Head is also the scene of my most glorious fall over of not being able to clip out because I was practicing on it. And I've shared the story before. They have like in Hilton Head, they have like a little, a greenway that goes like along the main road, the main drag there. And I was heading home from the office that day, and I pulled up to the red light on the greenway, and I looked over, and there was like a car full of fairly attractive young women. And I remember like really slowing myself down and kind of like, like first of all, who looks cool in cycling gear? That's left like get a chick, and I forgot that I needed to unclip, and I did like the total slow-mo, like fall over. Like, I think I even tried to give like a wave, like, hey, I'll see you guys later. Cause I'm about to fall over on the other side. Yeah. I never saw him again. But yeah, that's it. I'm ready to roll when you are.
It's a good look. Okay. We have an Instagram page.
We do.
There's a page feed. I don't know.
Wait, what you call it? A feed?
Instagram feed.
We do have an Instagram feed, C26_triathlon.
Yeah, check us out there. Follow us there. Good stuff going out. We have a coaching page on C26triathlon.com. You can check out Robbie and I up there along with our other coaches. And
Camps.
What was the other thing?
Camps and hub visits.
Were we going to mention the hub combo because that's going to run out soon, right?
Yeah, we are. The past 3 or 4 months, we've been doing a hub visit. And condo package. Basically, we for a hub visit, you get a swim analysis, you bike fit overview, you get bike testing, you get a run analysis, you get run testing, and you also get to hang out with Mike and I. Most people choose to hang out with Mike, and I just kind of sit in the office, and they have coffee in the lounge area. But that's all included, plus a one-night stay in the condo, which is like 30 feet from our front door. It's not even a condo; it's like a townhome. It's a 3-story townhome, all for $475, and that combo ends on July 15th. Now you can book up till July 15th. For whenever you want, up through next year. So if you want to take advantage of that package and that combo and that special that we've done, do it now. So reach out to Summer. She's at C26operations@gmail.com if you want more info on that package. Again, the offer ends on July 15th, but you can book through all the way to the end of next year. So if you want to take advantage of that, go ahead and do it because we are booked out solid. The townhome is now on Airbnb, so nights are solid. We've had a lot of people inquire about in-person swim analysis. We did 4 last week. We've already done 1 this week for camp. So it's awesome. Like we love it. This is why we built this place, was to help people and help our athletes and help people in the ways that we could in the sport. And I feel very fortunate that we can do that. So email again, Summer at C26operations@gmail.com if you have any questions about the hub, condo, camps, anything. And also happy birthday to her. I think she turns 49 today.
Today's Summer's birthday.
I think today's her birthday. So she's our guru. So wish her a happy birthday. And if you see Instagram, no, it's not Mike and I, it's her. But yeah, we're going to do Q&A today. We have a whole list of questions, but before we honestly dig into that, I wanted to briefly touch on 2 things. I wanted to touch on the interesting day that was Des Moines 70.3. And then I also wanted to touch on a certain gentleman's post that they made in their closed group the other day on June 20th. I guess it was 2 days ago. But listen, Des Moines 70.3 it's like it felt like an Ironman day. I'm sure for those athletes, like if you don't know what happened, it was delayed for like 3 hours. So I think they got in the water like 9:30 or 9:40. It wasn't a wetsuit swim. The water temp was like in the 80s. Again, they postponed it that morning because of storms. So you went from like, thinking to get in the water like 6:37 to postpone to like 9:30, 9:40 is when they started it. They think the wetsuit way which I think is honestly, I don't know why they're let people wear wetsuits when the water temp is 80 and the ambient temp is 90. I think it's just dangerous, but I get they want to make people feel safe and feel like they can get through the swim. But they kept the swim the same length. They shortened the bike, and then they kept the full length of the run. And so it was just one of those like crazy days where you're like, which I think those kind of days are great, honestly, because you don't have anything to measure it against. Like you're not going to race again a 1.2 mile swim, a 31 mile bike, and a half marathon. So you can't go in with expectations of like, oh, I wonder if I'm going to PR. Yeah, you did. Everyone PR'd. Everyone who finished PR'd that day because congrats everyone that PR'd. But I think it's just a very like a very great reminder of how flexible and adaptable you have to be in the sport, and that you have to change your plans on your own. You can't just, assume you're going to be, force fed. Like if your coach goes out and tells you to do something specific, it's like, you have to think for yourself, because like your wake up, why are you like laughing? You're like, you're grinning at me right now.
Positive spin on it. I was kind of bummed. I'm like, man, I'd be bummed. I kind of always get in that mode. But
you do.
Like, it's you're a positive guy, man.
I am a positive. I'm very positive today. I think it's a great opportunity. So yeah, you can congratulate yourself on all of your PRs. But I think what it did was also highlight how flexible you need to be able to be, because a lot of people woke up with a specific nutrition plan for race morning and the race distances, and like you had to adjust all of that because the race, the delay was 3 hours, the bike was shorter. Then you're thinking, okay, do I need to up my power on the bike? Do I need to keep it the same? It's still going to be very, very hot. I'm probably going to be running when it's even hotter outside, or even the same temp because the bike was shortened. If you like take into account the delay, so I really think it was a great reminder of how athletes need to be able to control themselves and know what to do on their own. Whether they have a coach or they're self-coach, you need to be able to troubleshoot and problem solve and think through things logically on your own. You have to be independent on race day, and you can't listen to outside info. You can't, rely on other people. You have to practice these things, and you have to be just very, very flexible again, and a good problem solver and troubleshooter. And I think that is a lost art in endurance sports because of all the gadgets and things that people have. They assume and they predict and they think things are going to go perfect to plan, and nothing went to plan that morning. Everything was like thrown awry. And I think like no matter how much data you have to stick to, you can't just get a plan and stick to it blindly without feeling, because listen, like we've talked about this before on race day, and the same thing goes with training, is you know yourself better than anybody else, or you should, right? You should know yourself better. So if you get a plan that's like, this seems too easy, this seems too hard, it honestly, it's up to you. Don't ever stick to a plan blindly. I mean, we tell athletes all the time, like, here's the guide that we prefer you to stick to in terms of like a range on watts, but we do swim and run all by feel, no paces. And then it's like, just kind of reserve it. And then after 34 months, if you feel better, then push it. But ultimately, and we highlight this, ultimately, you know yourself better than I do. I'm not inside your body. I can't feel and see exactly what's going on. It's up to you. And you have to have the confidence and the experience, I think, in training to just go with your gut, right? And just know what you feel like. I'm not going to go on a huge tangent because we're never getting any questions, but I was also reminded of this on watching the F1 race on Sunday morning. We had, I know, I see you're rolling your eyes already, but
no, I'm trying.
Let's just bear with me for a second, because you'll be all in on this. So they had the two lead drivers, Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. They, F1 is this insanely expensive sport. It's so much on just obviously skill of the driver because they drive these insane speeds, but it's also so much about data, like engineering and, what tire pressure and how long is it going to last and what kind of tires and, drafting and speed, all, how they're going to build their car for the track. And what happened was Lewis Hamilton was in the lead, and then they had both already pit stopped, and Max Verstappen pitted again to get fresh tires, which are obviously faster. And Lewis kept driving, and he kept telling his pit crew, he was like, dude, this is a two-pitter. Like, I need new tires. And they're like, no. And the engineer's like, no. Kept reassuring him. He's like, no, we've ran the numbers. The numbers say you're going to make it to the finish line. Your tires aren't going to degrade enough to where his are going to catch you, because his will end up to degrade. And he kept saying on the mic, and so did his teammate Bottas, who they did the same thing with him. They both said like, no, dude, we need to stop. Like he's going to catch us. And they kept saying like, no. The engineers, behind their computers and their data and their numbers, and you got a guy that's driven the car hundreds and hundreds of thousands of times. It's like, no, dude, like I know what you're saying, and you're looking at a screen and you're thinking this, and guess what happened? It didn't last. He was right. He ended up passing him. Max Verstappen ended up passing him with like 2 laps to go. And the other guy who had the same
guy got canned.
Yeah, well, they after the race, and the Bottas, the same guy in his team, they only did 1 stop. He got passed as well on the very end. They were both like, they both said like, I effing told you. Like, I know what you see, but I just know that it's not going to last. And I just think I thought it was a great reminder of like, you can stare at numbers and you can be obsessed with what's predictable and what's certain, and you can run all these beautiful graphs and all these things that look pretty, but ultimately 2 guys that have been behind the wheel hundreds of thousands of times have a better feel for it than these scientists staring at a screen. And they were both correct. And at the end of the day, at the end of the race, the guys on the crew chiefs, they were like, yeah, dude, that's on me. They're like, we were wrong. You're right. And you kind of have to move on. But I think it's just that, and the Des Moines thing just, I thought was a great reminder of there's just something about knowing yourself and having that like intuition and feel for things that I think everyone should focus on more and explore more instead of being married so much to numbers. I told you, I brought it back. You
brought me in.
Thank you.
But are you trying to tell me that I need new tires in my special needs bag?
So I'm telling you, you're going to need
change tires.
Yes.
I wonder if anybody's done that.
That's actually not that's a special needs. Get a new fresh slips.
Which I'm going to pop this up and get into questions. But let's ask this question: like, I mean, would you recommend new tires for a race? I mean, does it?
I think brand new tires for a race is one thing. Confidence, you don't have to change it. It's not speed. You're not going to see any speed changes. Like, I think for most people, getting a brand new tube and tire is like, I want the freshest of the fresh. That way it can prevent any kind of, obstacle or event that's going to happen to where it's going to pop. Like, I think that's why people get them.
Okay, so there's no speed factor.
No, like
I'm sure someone's saying, "Oh yeah,
it's like, oh yeah, that's why I'm going to pick up an extra, 19 watts." I'm sure you are, buddy. Like, I like to get mine like 2 weeks beforehand. Like, I want to get a little rub on them. Like, I want to get like,
I agree with that.
Who cares? Like, get
those little fringes off there.
Yeah, exactly. Get the little fringes off there, like the little things. And then I swear we will get into your questions, but I also wanted to give a shout out to Mario, who is in our group, and he posted something that we actually spent a good deal talking about at Tech Camp, and he just posted something about body image and weight, and that is a huge topic in our sport. Again, we talked about it at Tech Camp because somebody asked about weight, and that's something that you and I are very careful with our athletes. Like, we don't ask athletes to weigh in. We don't tell them they need to lose weight. That's not our business. Because honestly, your weight is your business, and it's a very, very complicated business, right? It is something that is very personal to you, and it is very rarely just wound up in the details of the ins and outs of calories, right? It's like how you eat it. It's wrapped up in how you were raised, it wrapped up around what was seen as healthy. It's wrapped around things that are probably unhealthy in terms of this weight is perfect for me, or this is, not perfect. Like, we all have a very complicated, I think, relationship with weight and body image. And I know for me specifically, like, and I just wanted to give a shout out to Mario for just being open, honest, and sharing that. And that's, again, why I love our group so much. I mean, it had like 62 comments on it. And I think I loved it because it resonates, I think, with so many people. And we've talked about this before, is like, you walk up to the very first race is you walked up the start line. I did a Kiowa Island driving home from Hilton Head, and I remember standing on the start line. I'm not like, I wasn't overweight then, but I had been. Like, I had weighed like 220 and I just lost like a bunch of weight. And I remember looking at the start line and thinking, these guys look so lean and they look fast, right? Like, we associate weight and skinny with fast, and that's not actually true. And I remember looking at these guys thinking, like, these guys are going to absolutely crush me. Like, they're going to outswim me. They're going to outbike me. They're going to outrun me because they just look that. And then we're getting out of the water because, like I said, I'm not as big as I used to be, but I'm never going to have like a triathlon body. You and I both, like, we have broad shoulders, and like, that's just how we were built. Like, I'm never going to have that skinny runner's frame, and I'm fine with it. I actually like the fact that I've got shoulders, but having gone through weight loss myself, like, I think what we see in the mirror is just, it's polluted, right, by our thoughts and by our past. And like, if we think we always need to lose weight to be healthy and to be things, and that was something with myself growing up. Like, I know that, like, when I was basically dying from the inside from drinking so much, when I was before I got sober, my family would always mention things to me like, "Oh, you look so skinny. You look healthy. Like, you look like." And meanwhile, I'm thinking like, I wasn't thinking because I didn't care, but I'm like, I'm dying inside. Like, I'm literally dying. It was the lightest I've ever been, but it was like this. In order to be skinny, you had to look, or in order to be quote unquote healthy, My face was shaved, I looked very, like whatever. And I was very lean. They were like, oh, you look so healthy. And I'm like, I'm dying. And that's one of the reasons why I've kept my beard. It's because that was always associated with my family of like, you look unkept when you have facial hair. Like, now facial hair is like popular, but back like, 8 or 9 years ago, they were like, you don't look good, cause you have facial hair. And that's actually why I've kept it. But I think everyone has a difficult relationship with their own weight. And I don't think you should ever, associate being successful or failing with comparing yourself to other people. I think it should be about being healthy. I think it should be about having fun. And if your weight becomes, because I see this so often as a coach, people who are more concerned with looking like a runner and a triathlete, which I don't even know what that looks like. I guess just looking skinny, than they are with performance, and they'll never perform the way they want to because they don't eat enough. And so I think it's a very complicated topic, and whatever way you look, whatever way you want to look, make sure you're doing it for the right reasons, not because, tri suits aren't flattering for anybody. I don't care what they say. It's like, but just make sure you're not going down a path that's toxic and unhealthy that will never reap the amount of work you put into the sport by feeling like you have to justify what you do with the way that you look. That's no one's business but your own. Yes, well, there'll be people out there that will probably, unfairly judge you and mock things, and sure, but you know what? Fuck them. Like, that's do what you need to do and care for yourself, whatever that looks like. Just be happy. And I just wanted to make sure we touched on that today, and because I thought it was a very courageous post, and obviously there's a lot of positive feedback on that, and that's why, again, I love our Facebook group.
Well, I actually didn't see the post, but I'm glad you brought it up. I just want to add like one thing, because you mentioned something about the eating part of it. It's like, I think one thing that we tend to forget is that when we're training for triathlon, longer distance, and whatever, I mean, it's a lot of work, and I think a lot of people actually struggle with their weight because they don't eat enough. So
100%.
I just wanted to point that out, because what happens is you end up starving your body, and then your body goes into retention mode and things like that. And I was talking about that this weekend with somebody, and the other piece of that puzzle always for me is hydration. And I think hydration is one of those things that gets your system working well and whatever, but we need fuel to do this sport. And it's going to be a long, painful road if you're under eating your calorie burn and the work you're doing. So don't, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, I think that it's actually I find that when I'm in big training, I'm eating a lot more, and that's when I'm losing my weight, is because I'm staying on top of it rather than working at a deficit all the time. And your body kind of shuts down when you're not fueling enough. So that's all I would have to say about that. No,
it's a great point, and I think, and like the last thing I'll just say on it is, because I had an athlete have like a breakthrough in Training Peaks like 2 weeks ago that shared this with me, and that working out isn't like a punishment or a penalty, right? It's like, I rode long today, so I get a pizza. Have a pizza whenever the F you want to have a pizza. Like, have a burger when you want to have a burger. Like allowing yourself those things only when and if you do this is not a good relationship to have with food or exercise, right? Like, they shouldn't have this 1-to-1 ratio of, I can only have this if and when I do X, right? Like, because it's a very warped, unhealthy relationship between two things that honestly, frankly, shouldn't have that kind of relationship. It's like rewarding or punishing your kids for things you shouldn't reward or punish them for, and that is what we do as adults, or a lot of adults do with exercise. Like, you know what, if I got to burn off that cookie, or if I'm going to go out tonight and have Mexican, I really need to burn it off today. I'm like, first of all, let's be honest. If you're really going to go to town on Mexican, you ain't gonna burn it off that morning. Like, it's just, you're just not like, you're gonna do it, but
you might burn it. Well, no, I'm not.
No, it's like, have fun, like, and just be happy. And I think that's the last I'll say. And I keep saying this is the last I'll say, but happy and healthy is like the 3 words that we try to always associate with our podcast and the message that we send for the people that listen, not just for you athletically, but for you as a human, right, on this planet. is to do things, to participate in things and address things that allow you to be happy and healthy. And a lot of that for people does come down to training and fueling and eating. So whatever you're doing and, you know, or struggling with, make sure you know, like this guy did, like, you know, I swear, like, that's why we are never going to run out of, you know, podcast topics, because like, we're all going through the same shit. Like everyone, you know, it's like, I think it's like one of the most commented posts we've ever had. It's like everyone feels what you're feeling on some kind of level, either currently or has in the past or will in the future. So everything resonates with most of us, because yes, while we do triathlon, it is like we're humans and we're people first and foremost. So again, Mario, big shout out to you. Thanks for being, listen, vulnerable is strength in my opinion. And with that, we will finally get to the questions that we promised, 27 minutes ago. This is so typical of us. So we are.
I was really hoping we'd just run that one out.
That was run what out? That topic?
Yeah,
we can do whatever we want to. It's our podcast.
No, I understand that. I mean, I don't necessarily know if I guess I wasn't really like vesting myself in too deep, because I knew we were going to questions, but like where could it have gone, I guess is the question. But let's get into questions.
I mean, well, I guess that is like, you can, as a listener, you hear us troubleshoot. It's like kind of one of those, workouts where like you feel really good on it. Do you keep going or do you stop?
Yeah. We're making the decision on the fly right now.
Is this one of those things like, cause I think I could definitely continue on with the way.
Well, the reason I say so is because, like, first of all, the beginning point you made about like you making your own decisions is huge. It's like, I'm not. It's a training plan isn't like directions from to put a coffee table together from IKEA. You know what I mean? Because like you don't follow every step. I mean, like I kind of wing that.
Yeah,
it's like,
I know you do.
It's like this is official. This is official.
It's a guide, right? It's just like the speed limit. It's just like the speed limit. It's a suggestion.
Like, is this going to even hold up? Yeah. But yeah, I guess that's the analogy between training plans a little bit is like, it's just there, man. It's like, people always, they'll find a training plan online and we always say that it's probably pretty good, but the decisions, and that's why they come to us for coaching a lot, is for us to kind of look at it and analyze how they're doing versus how it's progressing and where they're going next, and adjusting things in the middle. That's the difference, right? If you perfectly execute every step of the IKEA directions, it'll probably work as long as you're not sweating too much and you're drinking a lot of fluid, because those things can wear you out.
As long as you're a professional carpenter that knows 4 different languages.
Well, that's the other thing, right? Yeah, because there's always that. But and when we talk about just I can't believe how many times I've said, it's okay that you didn't do exactly the workout, but just when you can't do it all, you don't have time or you don't have energy or whatever, just kind of like flirt with the integrity of it. You know what you're looking at here. If you have to do certain amount of intervals or, whatever you're doing, just do sort of that, as much as you can, and just let it go from your life and go on to the next one.
One of the biggest, I think, misconceptions that people have when they look into coaching or consider coaching or see other people that get coached is that you relinquish all control, right? Like you're giving all of your control and your decision-making goes to your coach. You have to do exactly what they tell you to do on the exact day, for the exact minute, and the exact interval. And they're like, that doesn't sound like any fun. And you know what? It doesn't sound like any fun. Like that sounds like effing torture, right? Like, no, thank you. And that is just something that we very much try to instill in the athletes that we work with, is that like first of all, everything that we write down is in pencil. It's not in pen. It's not engraved on like a tombstone. It's written in pencil. It is a guide. It is a guide where we kind of like have, we keep the bird's eye view, but you're the one on the ground doing the work, and ultimately you make the decisions. Hopefully like a job, and this is like a huge disconnect. I think for a lot of athletes is like going back to like how people see coaching is like your job isn't to relinquish your control to your coach. A coach's job is to actually put yourself more in charge of your own training and put yourself more in control of your day-to-day by giving you like it's the equivalent of, again, we use like the tools and like building a house stuff. It's like, as a coach, it's not about giving you one tool a day and being like, hey, you have to do this exact movement today. You have to drive these 4 nails in here, and you have to put in these 2 screws here. I'm not giving you like the whole, big level plan here. I'm just like, do this, or if you don't, we're not moving on to the next one. I'm going to give you every tool you need today, and I'm going to give you the blueprints. This is kind of how it should be done, but if it doesn't make you happy and it doesn't feel good, then flip the page. Right? Move on to the next one. Like, do something that makes you, because what we want is for you to be sustainable and to be happy, and you make those decisions. Like, and there are a lot of times, like, and I think I tick off sometimes the athletes that I work with. They're like, hey, coach, like, can I do? I'm like, you're an adult. Don't ask me that question. Like, these are simple questions that, like, we don't run like a dictatorship. Like, this is a relationship. We are in this together. If you feel like this needs to be done, then do it. Like, I'm never going to say, no, don't, unless it was like, something very idiotic. Like, I'm going to do 21 mile repeats on the track one day, and the next day I'm going to do it again. Like, yeah, I'd say, like, you're stupid. I'm going to step in here and put my foot down. And the only time really I ever put my foot down as a coach is when I will text someone and I'll say, day off, and don't argue with me. That's it. Like, that's the most dictator, like, in control that you and I both get as a coach, or one of our other C26 coaches, Nicole Winger. This is like maybe 4.5-5 weeks ago. Because like the thing with athletes, and I even mentioned this to her at Tech Camp and talk about the most difficult athletes to work with are the ones that will kind of lie to you by omission, right? Like, they are the ones they're the people pleasers, they're the type A's. They want to get every workout done. And on the outside, people think, oh, well, what a wonderful, committed and motivated athlete. And you're thinking, yeah, if they're healthy and they're training and progressing the way they need to, if they're driving themselves into the ground just to get a green, then no, they are not. Now they're just being stubborn and irresponsible. I could tell in her mood during the workouts that, she was grumpy. Like, when you do this long enough, you can, I mean, look, listen, we're all people. Like, we all text enough. Like, you can sense grumpiness in text messages. Like, you can sense a tone. Like, we all know this. It's like, and I texted her and I just said, 3 days off and don't argue with me. And because I used to just say, day off tomorrow. I already made the adjustment. They'd be like, but I'm already on my bike. Can I finish it off? No, get off. Go do something else. But now I add in day off, or, how many days off, and don't argue with me. And then it's like, okay, I got it. Like, appreciate it. That's it. It's never, I can't believe you didn't run your 40 minutes today and you ran 50. Like, how dare you? Like, I can't believe you ran trails with your girlfriend. I can't believe you rode the group ride with Tim. Like, who cares, right? It's our job to allow you to do your best within how you're feeling and what you want to do, because that's your box, right? It's not our job to mark off the box. It's our job to do the best we can for you as a coach within your own box. And I think that's just that's a huge misconception for athletes, is that we don't tell you what to do. We allow you to learn and to grow, so you can basically tell yourself how to kind of like really autopilot the stuff that we put in, because you know yourself well enough, right? You do a lot of stuff by feel. You know what feels right. You know what feels wrong, no matter, and I see this all the time with you as well, with the athletes that you work with. And you're like, hey, well, today called for, harder intervals, but I just wasn't feeling well, so I just spun easy for an hour and a half. Hello, round of applause. Like, that's exactly how it's supposed to be. Like, don't just do them because they're there, right? It's the same conversation you had to your kids. It's like, well, Timmy said this. Well, if Timmy said jump off a bridge, would you? No. Okay. Well, that's the same thing goes with your own training. Like, if your coach puts it in and you think that you shouldn't do it, then don't do it. Take ownership of your plan. It's not your coach's plan. It's our plan together as a team and as as partners in this triathlon journey relationship. But it all comes so much down to just knowing yourself. Like, another great example, Jay Young, who just got second place in his age group at Des Moines 70.3. We've been working together for about a year and a half, and he's a big, had been. He's a data guy in recovery now, but he's a big data guy, and we've kind of chipped our way back from the middle of the pack, like 13, 15 his age group, all the way down to second at Des Moines, and all 4 of his half marathons he's done in his races have been watchless. And he's but he has become he's very smart. that he's become very, very self-aware in what feels right. He'll also comment, hey, I didn't do this harder effort today because it just didn't feel right. Good, dude. Like that's when you know you're progressing as an athlete, when you can not just acknowledge but that you don't feel, but also take the ownership and the confidence and the responsibility to say, I don't feel very good today, so I chose to take it easy and still finish out and get some work in. What I didn't choose to do is make a really bad decision just for the sake of making it green or doing it because coach put it there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, sometimes shit doesn't feel right? And it's like if you're building a house and, the contractor's like, hey, we're shingling tomorrow and a tornado comes through, you don't try to make it up. You know what I mean? You don't make it up at midnight. You just kind of get back to work the next day. And as far as I'm concerned, last time I looked at our athlete base, I don't think we have any 14-year-old gymnasts trying to make the Soviet Olympic
the
team.
Soviet, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I do think that we grow up, like if I mention, hey, mention some famous coaches, like the first guys that come to your mind or women or, they're going to be like, ball buster types, the legendary coaches that didn't put up with anything. That's like their coaching college basketball or college football.
Bobby Knight, right?
The Bobby Knight type guys or whatever. But then all of a sudden, sometimes I think about Phil Jackson. He was kind of more of a Zen guy. He's like, yeah, dude, meditate. You don't want to practice? Go to Vegas, Dennis. Or whatever, like that type of thing.
Sit on the sideline when they're getting blown out.
It's like everybody's not the same. Your personality, if you're a type A and you want to do that, but just like, man, just keep it within the realm of what you feel like. And if you're tired, don't go overboard and make it worse, So I think that's a big point is like we think of coaching in that way, sort of like the coaches that have our memories. And nowadays coaching, because there's so many coaches now, right? Like the life coach thing, and there's coaches for everything. And I think that, I don't know if it's necessarily a bad term, but maybe, it's like, it's just something that is associated with Bobby Knight, but it's not really, it's just the fact that, you have your life.
I say Nick Saban, the same
way.
He's very, very hard on his players.
Yeah. You have your life. You've got families and kids and jobs and all that kind of stuff going on. We just think about triathlon more, like it's constant that's all we do, right? We just come in here and just basically talk about stuff, and we're always thinking about it. So it just makes things easier for you sometimes, I think, more than anything, is just to be able to kind of pop that question, saying, man, I haven't been able to think about that. What do you think of how next week's going to go out or play out? And do you think I'm ready for it, or whatever the case may be? It just makes life easier. And hopefully that translates into, making you a healthier person along the way.
I think there's not a disconnect. I think there's I think
burden removal or something.
You stole the words out of my mouth. Like it is burden removal. In I know the way that I coach, and I know the way that you do as well, and the other coaches that we have on staff is like, I think there is a huge plus, and I know that. There are a lot of awesome coaches out there, but there are also a lot of bad ones in every sport, right? You hear it every day, just you see crappy kids coaches, right? And like a lot of the athletes we work with have had just bad relationships with, high school, middle school coaches that, made them think and see something differently. When you at least portray or acknowledge that you love your athletes, right? That you love them as people, you love them as humans, you love them as athletes. In my opinion, that removes that burden of I have to do this in order to gain X, right, or Y. What it also does is allows room for mistakes, right, in growth and to learning, and which are so crucial because they're not afraid they're going to let you down. And still, I could tell an athlete a million times over, dude, I love you. And I say this all the time, even to the guys, I'm like, dude, I love you, man. I'm so proud of you. Because I do. I generally love every single athlete that I work with and tell them, I said, love you guys. I love the opportunity that I have. But what that does too is and you can, but again, you could say that a million times and they'll still be like, hey, I was afraid I was going to disappoint you because you have that coach title. And then you have to say dude, you're literally never going to disappoint me, ever, unless you, one, cheat, you do drugs, or two, you send Mike and I decaf coffee. Other than that, you're literally never going to disappoint us. But when you love someone and you tell them that, and that, and that's the coaching mentality and approach you have, is it removes that burden of I'm going to fail them. I'm going to disappoint them. I'm basically frozen in fear and paralyzed to be successful, ultimately successful with everything I do, because if I don't do it the right way, don't do it to the way that, Coach T, has me do it, then he's gonna be mad, and it freezes. It inhibits you from performing your best and from doing, like, that's why I've loved, like, watching, the swimmers and the trials make it, like, how much they love their coach and they cry. I'm like, that's what coaching is. It's like, it's a shared journey, and you have to be able to remove that burden, because you have to learn these things on your own, right? You have to learn these things. It's like, I've used an analogy before, but back when Hayden was like acting up at home and then he was like perfect at school, and we were like, wonder why he's, why is he perfect at school, and then why is he, where's the disconnect, and why does he misbehave at home, or, and they're like, well, that's how it should be, because he feels safe at home to make mistakes and to do things, because he knows no matter what, you're still going to love him. But at school, he doesn't know that. So he's on his P's and Q's. So when he has to be on his P's and Q's, basically be perfect all day, every day for teachers, or, that he doesn't know if they're always going to love him. Then he comes home, he feels he has to like release like all that, bent up, probably frustration from having to be perfect all day. I'm like, oh, okay, so it should be like that. It doesn't make it any easier as a parent, because you're like, well, that sucks. But, but that's how it is to be coaching. Like, you should love your, what? I
was going to say, though, are you making the analogy that the teacher should be a coach in that situation?
No, I'm saying, well, the parent, like the parent is the coach, like, because the kid feels loved so much that no matter what they do, you're going to love them back. And like, they can do things and explore and be imaginative and do things without being, trying to be perfect all day, every day. Like,
yeah.
I
was just saying,
kid, coach, athlete it's very much how it should be,
but I think it's weird not weird, but I almost feel like that. I wish more kids felt that way at school.
Whoa, 100% is like that. You should feel
like, because of that dictator or that authoritative,
the authority. Yeah.
Well, that really, I think, jacked me up, in a way, on a low level thing. Cause, you shouldn't be afraid at school. You know what I mean? Like, I think a lot of kids are, for various reasons. I don't know if kids are anymore. I mean, they just seem to run rampant. I got
paddled at school.
Yeah.
I went to like a Church of Christ like school that was like, you get demerits, you get like whacked, like you get paddled with a giant stick in the back of your leg.
He's kind of gone 180. It seems like my friends that are teachers, they say it's just out of control now.
But it still goes back to. But what love also equals is respect, right? And it's mutual respect between you and your athlete, that you both want what's best for each other, but ultimately for them. That's your job as a coach. It's what's best for them. And like, when I go back and look at my most favorite coaches I've had ever, and it sounds weird, but the coach that I love the most, Lisa Richards, was also the coach that I quit for. Which I know because I swam. I've shared this story before. Like, I swam year round for a very, very, very long time. And I was burnt out probably 2 years before I even quit. But I was so terrified to quit. I was so terrified what the coach was going to say, or what the response was going to be from my parents. And I just went and went and went. And you could tell her and Buzz Watson was the two coaches that I thought they loved what they did, but they also loved they just loved what they did, but they loved coaching, like, and they loved coaching with like, hugs and like, like, you did a good job today, like, no matter what. And I remember where I was, and I remember thinking, like, I was crying as I was doing like this kickboard set, because I couldn't feel like, it just didn't hurt anymore. I was in like that kind of shape. It just didn't hurt. I was ready to quit. And I remember she was like, what's wrong? Like, she cared. She was like, what's wrong? And I got out of the pool, went over to her, and we talked for a minute, and I just said, I just think I'm ready to quit. And she talked to me for another few minutes and was like very understanding. She was like, if that's how you feel, I think you should too. But I think what it represented to me was more of like, I felt safe enough to feel like I could do that and be happy, and not like, if I quit in front of somebody else, they're going to be like, well, dude, suck it up and get back in the pool, like, be a man. I'm like, first of all, I'm like 13. Like, I'm not a man. Like, I won't be one for probably like 40 more years. But it was like, that's the mentality that you had. And it was like, you see, I think you see it so often that, you thrive in places and around people that you feel safe with, and around and authentic. And like, and sometimes I think about like what happened if she had to been my coach, right? That year, like if I would have, how longer I would have stuck in swimming, and while I probably would have accomplished a lot of great things, like how effing miserable I would have been. If I look back at my favorite teachers at school, not like, I love the ones because they were smiling, they were laughing. You could tell that they cared. You know what you also want to do for those teachers? Work your ass off for them.
Yeah.
You know, like you have that, you want to do your best for them because it's just, it's different. Like, you know, there are plenty of Bobby Knight coaches out there, you know, still, you know, that are very, you know, authoritative and dictatorship and, you know, this is my way or the highway kind of thing. And like, but you do see a lot, like you see a lot more coaches and people in leadership positions and, you know, in the professional world, like what I would consider like leading with love versus like leading with fear. And I think that's just like and the thing is though, you can still, people say, oh, you're leading with love or you're happy with healthy. You know, if it seems like very soft, like, yeah, well, we'll straight whip your ass if we need to on the race course. Like that's how it needs to be. But at the same time, it's like when you want the best for someone, that has to come out. You can't genuinely want what's best for an athlete and who they are as a person without loving them. If you just want what's best for them as the athlete, then you'll drive them into the ground and you won't even care about what happens to them as a person.
Yeah. Well, with your situation real quick, that, you know, I just think a lot of, like, I don't know why you were swimming or why you got into that. If you're like trying to make the Olympics and maybe your school or your teacher or coach or whatever was all about that. And I know they have schools that are, you know, that way from the get-go. But I think that's a complete fail by coaches at that age. It's sort of like if you have to force kids to go overboard to the point where they're quitting, that to me is like a total disconnect in the sense of you want them to want to do it, right? I mean, if it's something they don't want to do, fine. But like if you're burying them on a kickboard set all day, every day, it's like, and they don't like it, find something they like. And then maybe they'll do the kickboard set on their own because they really want to get better or something like that. And I think that's one of the things that we're kind of talking about actually is sort of like, we want to inspire you to be your best. We want to, you know, maybe be a little firm on that sometimes. And I mean, you're that way a lot, even though you pour out the love. It's a loving firm. It's a polite but firm. That was always my favorite bouncer shirt that I saw at the bar.
polite but firm.
That's right. And but the thing is like, yeah, sometimes you need a coach, and sometimes there is going to be a little bit of, I don't want to let them down. And I think that's the beauty of the relationship too, is like, you know what I mean? Like it's like, yeah, I don't want to let them down. Not like it's really going to let us down, but you want to perform at your best, and we have to find out how to get you there.
Beautifully said. And that's one of those things of like how you get people to do things is a lot. I mean, we know this as coaches, like, because we work with people, is like, you sometimes have to love athletes when they're not loving on themselves, mm-hmm. right? And you have to instill confidence in them when they aren't instilling confidence in themselves. And that was like the greatest compliment you can get from a coach, like an athlete, Iona, who has never done a 70.3 and was super nervous about doing one. And she was like, hey, there's one coming up here in like 2 weeks. You know, I wonder if I should do it. And I was like, do it. And she was like, really? I was like, yeah, do it. You're ready. And she was like, oh, and then like the weather was horrible, and like was second guessing herself like every single day. And I was like, stop second guessing her. And I got kind of pissy with her. I said, stop second guessing with yourself. You've done the work. Listen to what I have to say and go do it. And it wasn't like a dictator thing. It was like, I could tell she wasn't feeling confident. So this is where it's your job as a coach to be confident, to get them to think, oh, well, if he's confident, then I'm confident. Like I should be confident.
Right. And
that was what she said after the race. She was like, I'm so thankful that you helped me gain confidence through what you said to be able to go out there, and then had like, you know, a tremendous day and was so happy. It was like, you can love people hard, right? And that's so much, in my opinion, what coaching is, you know, you have to get athletes to see where they really are as an athlete, when a lot of times, like going back to the weight thing, is, you know, they see and they feel the athlete they were 5 years ago or the athlete they could never be. They don't really know or see who they are right now because they have that kind of like, you know, toxic, polluted, you know, vision of themselves and reality. But as a coach, it's your kind of job to, like, you know, blow the cobwebs and the smoke out of the way and be like, you know, that's not who you are. That's not what you do. So if you need me to love you hard and put you in your place when you need to, it's not because I hate you, it's because I love you. And you need to see that too. And you need to believe that, because listen too, is like you said, if the coaches that are doing insanely huge disservice to kids and to adults and everyone in between. Like, if you're not helping your athletes get better, just better equipped as individuals and people to do life and not just their sport, then you're epically failing as a coach. Like, you have a tremendous, just as I truly believe athletes have should feel not grateful, should feel very, athletes should always take advantage of the time they have with a coach, if there's a good coach, because you won't always have one, and a lot of athletes don't. The same thing goes for a coach. You don't know how long you're going to work with a person, and you have the opportunity to impact them very, very in a wide range of ways, athletically and as people. It's a giant responsibility that you have to take very seriously. But that is your job, right? If you're an aspiring coach or a current coach, like, it's your job to care. It's your job to love them. It's your job to respect them. It's your job to push them, and it's your job to listen. It is all those things, and they have to feel more empowered with you as a coach, not like you've ripped the power away from them, that they can't work autonomously without you. It's that they can work with you, right? And by that, going back to the endurance sports, quote you always hear is like, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, or you go together. And that's what coaching is. Like, if you want to go really, really far with your athlete, you got to go. You got to go together. It's not a one-man show or a one-woman show. It's a together thing, and you can love athletes hard, and that's like one of those things. Like, when you give out hugs and you do things, it's like, but you can't do that unless they know already that you love them, because then it comes off as you just hate them. Like, you're being like, that kind of guy or that kind of woman as a coach. But you have a huge responsibility, and I know you and I, outside of coaching, feel that responsibility on this podcast, and that has been your Crushing Iron Q&A podcast from the closed group. Technically, we didn't use a question. We did use the closed group to launch the topic of this podcast.
Correct. Yes.
So I'm going to say like we just talked about, we stayed within the lines, and we put out, I thought, halfway decent podcast.
I think you're right. And I didn't actually write the Q&A as the title, so that's
Perfect.
legit. And
legit.
just so you know, if I think if you order gear, I'm going to start putting these notes that I take from the podcast in the package. So there's another incentive to get some water bottles or some hats.
Do it.
Check it out at C26Triathlon.com.
Yeah. That is
our store.
That's our store, and we promise, because I promise you, because we're going to do it here in like 5 minutes as we record our podcast 489.
It's funny though, I came up with a whole new topic. No, I'm kidding. We're gonna do the Q&A.
We'll do it. Okay. If you want to know about all the things we do, coaching, camps, and community, as always, go to our website, C26Triathlon.com. It is our one-stop shop. If you need anything from Mike specifically, you can reach out to him. He is at crushingiron@gmail.com. If you need anything from me, I'm at C26Coach@gmail.com.
All right, let's wrap it up.
See you next week.
See you, buddy.